it's amazing how many things you can define as an algorithm. So if to the extent that your work is something that you do in a routine way, it is subject to being automated. The idea that we have financial advisors that make lots of money, but they're doing things that are pretty routine. Oh, excuse me, financial advisors. But it's a matter of analyzing data, looking at the results, and then coming up with a conclusion. It's subject to automation. We're seeing more and more of that every day. So how do we then actualize ourselves as people with the changing nature of work? I think it's an interesting question. I don't think it's an answer. I don't think we have an answer for it, but it's something that we have to start dealing with as a society.
It's a fascinating, we'll call it debate right now, and I'll comment on our workforce, and I think there's some realities there that we're seeing a massive transformation and shift of our needs, as you can imagine. However, we're unique in that our end customer, we'll use the orthopedic surgeon as the example here, is really somebody that has some of the highest levels of education, is extremely specialized. Almost any particular total joint reconstructive surgeon is fellowship trained. So they go through all their medical school and they obviously advance through their residency, and then they also do a fellowship to specialize in a certain pathology and care treatment. And now we're coming in with a robot and sort of augmenting and at some point potentially replacing them actually doing the important parts of the procedure. The cuts, the placement, the gluing of the implant back into the body. All things that we believe the robot can do more accurately and predictably, which you can imagine the message that sends to somebody who just went to school for 13 years, a one-year fellowship, and goes, well, hold on a minute, I'm the doctor. And depending on your belief system, sometimes they think they're the only thing between up there, wherever that is, and that particular patient. And so now you've got to come in and go, well, this robot is going to potentially do what you're doing. So it's a delicate dilemma right now. But our belief is, over time, as the technology advances and more of this technology is utilized, that we'll see the next generation of these skilled and trained physicians become more comfortable with utilizing that technology to perform their procedures. And we imagine a day, and it's probably a couple decades from now, that it will be commonplace for how they're trained and educated to understand utilizing some sort of technology to do the intervention and the procedure. You still need the human to diagnose, you still need the human to interact, you still need the human to have compassion and trust. A robot, we don't think right now, can do that. However, the mechanical, the carpentry, we'll use orthopedics again, can probably be done by a computer system.
We recognize we have two problems. Number one, we have a bimodal distribution of our workforce. We have a group of people that are maybe average age of 50, and that's where our skills workers are at. And then we have an extremely young workforce in our Kentwood facility, because we've done most of the hiring in the last 4 or 5 years. But we have 170 total people, and the average age is a little bit less than 30. And so the bimodal distribution is a very strong hump at the young end of the workforce. Generally speaking, people that we have into some kind of training program, or et cetera, 29 of our 170 employees are in some type of apprenticeship, internship, or et cetera, in order to learn the skills that they need for our work.
We have students over here, so rapid fire. What bit of advice are you going to leave these students with as a result of your presence here today? Fred, you can start real quick.
Be flexible and open to the changes that are coming, and be willing to think ahead of where your employers are today.
Okay, Spencer.
Be comfortable being uncomfortable. Make sure you force yourself to be uncomfortable. Go into new situations, new adventures, and hopefully aspire for leadership and help us make the world a better place.
Thank you. John.
This should only be the beginning of your education. You need to become a lifelong learner. I do a week a year at another educational institution just to keep my game sharp, and to get me thinking differently than I would if I was sitting at home.
Good. Thank you.